and Duke. ACC basketball games are brought to you in high definition by the ACC Network. Opening tip to the home-standing Blue Devils. Brian Kersey, Ray Natilli, and Mike Stewart are our officials tonight.
NC State starts in the man-to-man.
And Duke takes it right to the hoop, and a powerful move by Rashid Suleiman.
And Rashid Suleiman, Bob, is a guy who started the season very well based upon moves like this one. North Carolina State, not really a strong one-on-one defensive team, and Suleiman went just right around Scott Wood. And that foul's on Howell. And that's bad news for North Carolina State because they can ill afford to have Richard Howell in foul trouble.
Suleiman polishes off the three-point play. And Duke draws first blood. Here comes the freshman, Tyler Lewis. His first start comes at Cameron. And an early whistle. This is a foul on his opposite number, Quinn Cook.
And Quinn Cook is one of those guards defensively, Bob, who can be very, very physical. And that was an impressive move by Tyler Lewis. You got to be tough, and he was certainly tough that time.
And the runner by the freshman puts NC State on the board. We talked about how well he played against Miami last weekend with 16 off the bench.
Well, he came off the bench, Bob, but he played 36 minutes in the game. Once he came off the bench, he never went back.
Duke has their injury problems as well tonight. Close followers know all about Ryan Kelly, but Josh Hairston is also out tonight with an infection in his right arm. So thin benches each way. Suleiman, a three.
That's not a bad start for a guy who, when he plays really well, Bob, the Duke Blue Devils have looked extremely impressive.
And he has been on fire over the last 5 games, shooting 58% from the floor. 6-2. In and out for Lewis. Jefferson clears. On the bounce to Plumlee. NC State will take a timeout. Just the kind of start that Coach K and the Crazies were looking for tonight.
Bob, and everybody talks about Mason Plumlee and his rebounds and double-doubles, but he does a great job running the court. A very athletic big guy who runs extremely well, and you just cannot allow him to get loose like that down the court. He scores 6 or 8 points like that every game.
Here's a look at our forward keys to the game.
Bob, I think for North Carolina State, the biggest key is they got to be tough with the basketball. Don't look for the officials to bail you out, and they have to get in transition. We just saw Duke in transition, and the key for Duke, they have to set the pace. It has to be their tempo. So far it has been, and they have to apply great defensive pressure, and we've seen that so far. So a great start for Duke. North Carolina State's Mark Gottfried looking for some improvement, and quickly. This is a place, Bob, where you can get your doors blown off before you halfway settle in.
C.J. Leslie gets to the middle and travels. So not much going right here in the first 2 minutes for the Wolfpack. This is a state team that after they beat Duke, when the Blue Devils were number 1, they've lost 2 straight and 4 of 6 since that win. Suleiman. Seth Curry.
NC State needs to push it, Bob. Every chance they get, they've got to push the ball up the court.
Leslie. And it's rejected by Plumlee.
Bob, he had the ball in position inside, but he took too long to get the shot off.
Curry drains a 3, and it's 11-2. Lewis gets inside and 1.
It's a good thing they brought him. C.J. Leslie takes so much time, Bob, with the dribble and the fake. He allows Plumlee to get down, and as a result, Plumlee blocks the shot, tips the ball out, They get a transition basket, and Seth Curry, as good as there is in the country at finding that spot in transition and knocking down the three.
A second foul on Quinn Cook comes at the 17:26 mark. For NC State, TJ Warren has come into the ball game, and Scott Wood goes out. Well, Tyler Lewis has all 5 of the Wolfpack points, an 11-5 game, and Cook has to sit. Into the game comes Tyler Thornton.
And Thornton, of course, an experienced, capable backup.
Looking for Curry off the screen. 5 early for Seth Curry, 13-5 Blue Devils.
Bob, just very little resistance on the defensive end by North Carolina State thus far. Richard Howell has to handle the ball a little bit, Bob. I think you've got to allow Howell to attack Mason Plumlee, particularly with Hairston being out for Duke. They're really thin on the inside.
Suleiman. Wow. A second three for Rashid. 16-5. Duke's at 6 of 7.
Bob, this is the way they started down in Tallahassee and then just went on to destroy Florida State.
In a venue where historically Duke has not played well over the years. They were lights out last weekend, and it's carried over. Warren can't drop it in, can't tip it in, and it belongs to Plumlee. Seth picked up by Purvis. Toe on the line for 2. Rebound to the Wolfpack, and Richard Howell. Howell had 18 rebounds the last time these two teams met in Raleigh. Gets his own miss, can't follow.
Good heavens.
Richard pinned underneath, and it's tipped out to the pack. My goodness.
Success is built in their dominance of the transition game, but so far tonight it's been Duke who has set the pace.
State has a fresh 35-second clock to work with here, but I believe, Dan, coming out of this timeout, Mark Gottfried, I'm sure has preached to his team, fellas, you've got to have a sense of urgency about you at the offensive end of the floor.
Bob,
yes.
There is a certain amount of tentativeness, it appears, out there on the offensive end. You got to attack.
Leslie wraps it around, and it goes out of bounds to Duke.
It's a good idea to get the ball inside. In the last couple of possessions, North Carolina State has missed some layups in there. Shots that they would normally make, but they've got to be aggressive. Get the ball inside with the pass or with the dribble. They need to attack the Duke Blue Devils.
Thornton inside all alone. Mason Plumlee.
I mean, Duke making it look really easy, Bob.
18-5. Howell. Kept alive by the Blue Devils. Warren fighting for it. And coming away with it is Alex Murphy. Curry is open. Spot up 3. C.J. Leslie, and that's a blocking foul. First of the night on Tyler Thornton.
Bob, and Duke has been able to get very easy shots and not much resistance on the part of North Carolina State. The pick gets Plumlee wide open, and C.J. Leslie goes flying by trying to get the steal, but Duke has been dominant so far. And that's not surprising. Duke goes through stretches like that when they play in this arena. It's extremely important that you recover and get your legs underneath you so you can play.
Scott Wood can't connect.
You got to stop this run, and you got to start climbing back in the game. Curry.
Plumlee on the offensive rebound and tied up, and Richard Howell picks up a second foul with 14:07 to go in the first half.
Richard Howell has done a nice job, Bob, over his last 10 or 12 games staying out of foul trouble, but he's in foul trouble right now.
First free throw for Mason Plumlee. his 5th point. Closed captioning. For ACC basketball is provided by Bojangles' famous chicken and biscuits. It's Bo time. The 6'10 senior goes to the line on average 7 times a night for the Blue Devils, has 6 points, and it is 20-5, and not all the seats are warm yet. 14 minutes to go in the half. Wolfpack 0 for its last 9.
Bob, to be perfectly honest with you, watching this game, and of course our vantage point is a little different than normal. We're not down on the court. But what I see from our vantage point is there's only one guy out there for North Carolina State who's digging in with any toughness at all, and that's Tyler Lewis. Everybody else is just sort of standing around. We got to attack Duke.
A second foul on Tyler Thornton. Purvis from behind the line.
And
10 straight misses.
I think you can't settle for jump shots. The ball has to go inside. You've got to get C.J. Leslie involved with his back to the basket, not shooting from the perimeter, driving to the goal, but get him down in there with his back to the basket and see if he can operate against Plumlee.
Suleiman against Wood. And Scott, with hands all over him, picks up the foul.
It's a tough matchup for Wood.
The ACC is on Facebook. Like us on Facebook and become a fan of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Get breaking news, conference updates, and connect with other ACC fans from around the world. Good ball. Murphy. Couldn't finish with a left hand. Leslie brings it out for the Wolfpack. CJ. And that's going to be a blocking foul on Suleiman.
Bob, that's something we see C.J. Leslie do very frequently, and that is get the rebound, push the ball all the way up the court himself, and take it to the basket. And Suleiman thought he was there waiting for him, but just didn't quite get set before that contact occurred.
And what a difference a year makes, Dan. NC State came over here last year and owned the first half. They were up by 20 points. And looking to spring the big upset over the Blue Devils, then Duke caught fire and eventually came back to win the game by 5. And C.J. Leslie had a huge game here with 12 points, a career-high 6 blocks and 9 rebounds. And tonight, his ball club is right now down 14 early.
The good news about that, Bob, is you still have plenty of time to climb back in the game, but there has to be a little bit more intensity, a little bit more sense of purpose out there. NC State trying to decide what defense they're playing right at the moment. Scott Wood was playing man-to-man. Everybody else was playing zone. Now they've got it organized.
Suleiman with a pull it inside to Plumlee.
Bob, that was a dynamite catch by Plumlee. And then a great fake.
And NC State's going to take another timeout. Mark Godfrey keeps going to the whip, Dan, but is Wolfpack not responding here?
This is a situation where C.J. Leslie is not noted as a great defender. And that time he just lost track of Plumlee. Plumlee gets the easy one.
Well, it was a different story over in Raleigh, wasn't it? Game 1 a couple of weeks back. NC State had it rolling. Rodney Purvis helping to get the party started in transition. Richard Howell, saddled with 2 fouls early tonight, was strong on the inside. C.J. Leslie came through with 25 points for the Wolfpack that day. And NC State beat number 1 Duke 84-76. As we said at the top of our broadcast, that was then, and this is now. 22-6 Duke.
And big numbers for Howell in the last game, as we just showed you, but the biggest number for him so far today is 2 personal fouls.
Tyler Lewis, the freshman from Statesville, North Carolina. Leslie. Duke off and running with Suleiman. Trailing. Cook, firing Cook. That's 3. 25-6. Scott Wood.
Bob, we showed a little early. Seth Curry catching that ball and letting it fly right away, but there's very few guys in the ACC any quicker on the release than Scott Wood, and that was really a big basket for North Carolina State.
Scott third in the conference in percentage. An equalizing three by Quinn Cook. That's 5 3-pointers for Duke here in the first half. T.J. Warren off the glass.
Warren really aggressive, an aggressive offensive player.
And the Pack needs more of that.
Yeah, they sure do, Bob. But if you're going to play against Duke, you got to limit their transition. You got to run them off that three-point line. And NC State has done neither of those things early in this game.
This one will go off the knee of Emil Jefferson. And we come to a timeout with 11:08 to play in our first.
They've got 9 transition points. You've got to run them off the three-point line. They've got 5 3-pointers.
And speaking of the three-point shot, that's, of course, a great way to get back in a game. Wood hoisting a three, but missing it. But the Wolfpack doesn't generate, as a team, a great deal of offense behind the line.
Bob, on the season for North Carolina State, they only get about 20% of their offense behind the three-point line. They are one of a very small number of teams in the country that score more points from the free throw line than they do from the three-point line. That's why I say they've got to get it inside with the dribble or with the pass, but they have to start attacking in there.
Scott Wood does get 2 in the paint, 5 for the night, and it's 28-13. Plumlee, just no stopping him on the inside.
He is too big and too strong for C.J. Leslie. That's where they miss Richard Howe. And a really nice concept by Duke to recognize that. Plumlee can just overpower Leslie in there, and he's done it so far.
Tyler Lewis pulls up from 14.
Robin, even though Lewis has played very well, we again have to point out that Lorenzo Brown, one of the best point guards in the country, is not available for North Carolina State today. He had 13 rebounds in that first meeting, or 13 assists, excuse me.
Seth, another three.
Bob, they're open rhythm looks. North Carolina State just a step slow.
Goaltend. Count the basket. T.J. Warren's second field goal. 33-17.
Bob, it's interesting. Even in the exchanges where North Carolina State is scoring, and we just said they went through that 0 for 11 field goal drought, but even in the exchanges where they score, they fall further behind.
Duke has been absolutely phenomenal here at the start of the game outside the line. Quinn Cook has 2 of the threes. Inside Murphy. And a foul on the Wolfpack.
Warren is going to pick up that foul.
First on TJ.
The Wolfpack, Bob, we're halfway through the first half, and they seemingly have not settled in defensively yet. Guys are losing their defensive assignments, and that play where Murphy gets the ball inside, he was all alone for like a second before they even found it.
The freshman from Rhode Island, Alex Murphy. Splits the pair, and it's 34-17.
With Hairston not available tonight, you expect that Murphy, who really hasn't played a whole lot, is going to get more minutes, and he's played very well in the minutes that he's received here in the first half.
Lewis bumped and will shoot 2.
Bob, I'm not making the comparison to say they're similar players, but watching Lewis drive down the lane that time, he reminded me of Chris Corchiani, who would drive down the lane. He was looking to pass the ball, not shoot the ball. And that's what Lewis was doing that time. He was looking around trying to find somebody open. That's 2 on Suleiman now. And Cook has 2 fouls as well.
Yes. Thornton has 2.
Thornton has 2. So the one guy who's keeping the pressure up is this fella at the line who looks like he just delivered your paper this morning.
Jordan Vandenberg comes in for the Wolfpack. The last time that NC State came over here and beat Duke with Coach K on the bench, Chris Corchiani was a freshman in 1988. Plumlee just muscles his way to the hole.
Bob, the muscle was an important factor, but in that particular play, the muscle wasn't as important as the quickness. He is strong and quick in there, and he gets his balance and then makes a quick spin to the basket that Vandenberg, he just doesn't have the ability to move that fast. And Bob, is an illustration of the ill luck that North Carolina State has experienced tonight. Plumlee shoots 50% from the line in ACC play, and he's made all 3 of his attempts tonight.
35-19. Purvis, too strong off the glass. Thornton leads the Duke break. And all the way to the hole, Alex Murphy. And once again, the Wolfpack barely turned their heads as Murphy went flying to the hole. Warren tapped out by Plumlee, and they go tumbling into the photographers.
Bob, and in transition, North Carolina State just can't get set. You've got to give Duke a lot of credit attacking before the defense is ready, but we've seen that frequently tonight.
Marshall Plumlee will come in for his brother.
See, and Duke very short-handed, only 8 scholarship players available tonight for the Blue Devils. But the pressure's really off now. They've built this 18-point lead. They can substitute freely.
Lewis rebounded by Cook.
Just not a lot of movement on that North Carolina State offense. It appears to be like first guy down the court shoots, and that is not the way to get back in the game.
Seth saves it right inside, a block and a foul as Alex Murphy goes tumbling. 7:50 remaining in the first half. Duke
and North Carolina State, we've mentioned that they don't really use the three-pointer that much, but they have been unable to stop the Duke Blue Devils, who score 1/3 of their points in ACC play from behind the arc. So that's a very important weapon in their arsenal.
Interesting how Mike Krzyzewski, for the 3rd year in a row, has had to retool his Duke team due to major injuries in midseason. Boy, this ball club has hit its stride here in the last 2 weeks. A 20-point blowout of Maryland here, a 19-point win at Florida State, and they're up 19 in the first half here. C.J. Leslie scores. First field goal gives him 3, 38-21.
Need a lot more of that, Bob. Get the ball inside. I notice Howell is back in the game, so you've got to get him involved offensively too.
Plumlee runs into Howell. Cook.
Bob, and Plumlee passed that ball to Cook and started running down to the other end of the court. Plumlee is very good getting that ball inside and kicking it out for those 3-point shots.
Howell right to the goal. So the Wolfpack getting that ball inside the last 2 possessions.
Bob, they're starting to settle in a little bit on the offensive end, but on the defensive end, there's still 6.5 minutes left in the first half, and Duke has 41 points.
Shot clock at 12. Cook, a little hitch and go. Leslie hands it over to Lewis. Wolfpack go back to CJ. Didn't like the look with Plumlee coming out at it. Howell inside and scores.
I think Thornton sold that one a little too much, Bob. You go flying like that, the official thinks you flopped.
41-25. Back iron for Murphy. Hustles to get his own miss. Nice bounce inside. That's a fly swat rejection by Howell.
Bob, but Howell could have prevented that whole thing by simply blocking out on the 3-point shot. Murphy misses the three, follows it, and so Duke is going to get another chance. Remember, Howe's got those 2 personal fouls, so he's got to be really careful, but there was very little care taken there. He just swatted that thing into the 3rd row.
Catch and shoot, Suleiman short. Wolfpack looking to run, Wood ahead of the pack, but now it's Warren flipping it up and in. No basket, says Brian Kersey. And the foul is on Seth Curry. Well,
I think he said the basket was good.
He did count it, okay. I thought he called the foul out front.
So Curry's looking to grab him for a couple of steps there.
And that's a pretty fortunate call because the foul was committed before the shooting motion began. So T.J. Warren heads to the line for the first time tonight as the Wolfpack have shaved this down to 14.
It's 14, Bob, and after the way this first half has gone, 14 seems very reasonable for North Carolina State. They've got to force Duke into difficult shots, rebound the ball, and get out in transition. Still a lot of time left in this ball game.
Suleiman right to the hole. Rebound, Richard Howell.
Now you got to go.
And Pack playing 4-on-5 as Wood is down his knees at the other end. Rebound Warren. So Scott Wood injured. The Pack have cut it back to 41-29. 8 unanswered points for the Wolfpack. But now, the danger of losing yet another player in the senior Scott Wood.
Bob, and he went down hard. They've already risked missing Lorenzo Brown.
.447 remaining in our first half.
Wood just really having a difficult time trying to contain Suleiman. Very awkward landing.
Yeah, and they Scott at the end of the
Bob, that's
bench.
one of those things, that landing was so funny. That's the kind of thing where you might pull a groin muscle or something. They're looking at the inside of that leg.
Rodney Purvis in for him. 4:40 left, first half. Plumlee pushed by C.J. Leslie. First down, Leslie.
So Plumlee will go to the line for a 1-on-1.
In his Duke career, Mason Plumlee has gone to the foul line 10-plus times in the game, 12 times. Duke has won 11 of them. The exception that proves the rule was this year's loss at Miami. And he has done a terrific job at the stripe so far. He's 5 out of 6.
Well, he has a big advantage over Leslie close to the basket, but that far from the basket, Leslie ought to be able to move his feet and prevent him from getting any closer. But Leslie fouled him, and now Warren takes a tough shot. That's 5 rebounds for Plumlee in the game.
Sort of line drive that one in.
Bob, I think he got up in the air, was thinking about passing it, realized that his intended target was covered, and just threw it up on the board.
15 points for Mason. Howell off the elbow. As you pointed out, Dan, a better offensive rhythm for NC State.
But still nothing doing on the defensive end, Bob. Duke has been able to do just about whatever they've wanted to do. And it has, for the most part, now that the three-point barrage has slowed down, it's been based on Mason Plumlee.
Cook off the high screen. Duke turns it over. NC State with a 4-on-3 advantage. Looking for the trailing Purvis.
Bob, Purvis should have stayed behind the three-point arc. I think that's what Lewis expected him to do. Everybody was down on the inside. And Purvis just took a couple of steps too far. Howell's hit 2 of them. I think if you're Mason Plumlee, you're going to let him shoot that shot, particularly early in the shot clock.
16 points, 18 boards against Duke in Raleigh. And 8 points now in the first half. Seth Curry. Duke swings it out to Cook.
Leslie working hard against Plumlee, but he is a big load in there.
Quinn Cook with his 4th three-pointer of this first half. He had 4 threes at Florida State. A career high. He's matched it here in the first half tonight. 48-33. Howell dumps it inside, and Leslie with the stop. 5 for CJ. 48-35 Duke.
I think these last 2 minutes, Bob, are really important. Is Duke going to get a spurt to stretch the lead out again? And it looks like they are.
NC
State battled back to within 12, and now Duke has started knocking down the three-point shots again. That is very discouraging if you're the Wolfpack. I understand Scott Wood has gone into the locker room.
And that takes a big weapon away from the Wolfpack.
And we mentioned they were already shorthanded without Lorenzo Brown, so even more difficult assignment coming back from this now 16-point deficit.
Purvis. Rodney Purvis averages 11 a game in ACC competition. He is scoreless tonight.
That's a tough shot. I think they need to utilize Howell and Leslie down on the inside. They had some success with that.
Curry. This is amazing. 10 threes in the first half for Duke. Warren's runner. And Curry gets pushed. TJ Warren's second foul. Curry does such a great job at getting open for that one. 54-30.
Number right there with Mike Krzyzewski. About 20% of the time when his teams have taken the court, they have been ranked #1 in the country. That's just unbelievable.
It's really staggering.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
You have all those numbers up there, and it's just, you think, what in the world? How can anybody at one place have that much success?
And for some programs across the country, now if Mike Stewart will stop play, for some programs across the country, to get ranked is a big deal. To be #1 is an incredible deal. And here it is commonplace.
And they stopped it because the shot clock did not start. And they're trying to get the shot clock set at 33. There we go.
63 seconds left.
But this is a classic Duke spurt right here. North Carolina State had cut the lead to 12. It looked like they were getting some momentum going, and now suddenly it's a 21-point game. It's just unbelievable.
Leslie to the hole. 7 for CJ. 30 on the shot clock, 41 on the game clock as we come to the end of the first half. What a shooting night for these Blue Devils. Seth Curry keeping it going. An effortless, seemingly effortless 18 for Seth Curry.
Bob, and that's what it looks like. Obviously, there's great effort to get open like that, but he's just so smooth. And it looks like he's floating out there.
58-37. Duke averages 78 points a game. And a strip by Thornton. They've got some seconds to work with. Curry at the buzzer. And the first half comes to an end. Coming up on the Hardy's halftime report, we'll show you highlights from for NC State, Tyler Lewis. As Dan talked about, 9 points, turnover-free first half. ACC basketball games are brought to you in high definition by the ACC Network. Well, Scott Wood is back for the Wolfpack. He inbounds it to Tyler Lewis, and our second half is underway. C.J. Leslie backing down Jefferson. And drops it in on the reverse.
I think that's a really tough matchup for Jefferson, and good move by North Carolina State to go right in there early. Now, however, they've got to do something they weren't able to do very much in the first half, and that is get some stops. The Duke offense has just been a machine tonight.
And this guy at the controls, Seth Curry. Cook was terrific. He had 4 threes in the first half.
He didn't miss a three. He was 4 for 4.
Shot clock draining. Cook gets to the rim, then gets hit, and a foul.
And this is a situation here, Bob. C.J. Leslie, he's looking as he's dribbling. Nobody comes to help. And he actually turns into a lot of trouble there, but is able to outmaneuver Plumlee on the inside.
First free throw by Quinn Cook.
And Cook is a guy, Bob, he's a very good shooter, but he doesn't get to the free throw line very much. That sort of isn't his role on this team.
His 13th point, 59-39.
Purvis has yet to score for the Wolfpack.
This time, passing out of the low post, but Howell airballs one.
We just don't, the body language for the North Carolina State Wolfpack is just very bad.
Curry and Wood with the foul. 3 free throws to come. Second foul on Scott Wood. Mike Krzyzewski a little short in the rotation, of course, with the injury to Kelly and no Josh Hairston tonight. It has mattered not.
Well, Bob, those numbers by the starters, that means your starters are very good and you have a very short bench. So, doesn't matter where you get the points as long as you get them.
Seth Curry has scored 18. He's the 3rd best foul shooter percentage-wise in the conference at 83%. Second at 3. His biggest output this year in a game, 31, the career high against Santa Clara. 4 threes tonight. He had 6 here against Georgia Tech. 5 against the Wolfpack and Roland.
Well, Bob, this is my first opportunity to see the Duke Blue Devils this year in person, and you hear and you read a lot about the injury problems for Seth Curry, but he sure doesn't look like a guy who's being hampered by injuries tonight.
Ray Tilly spots the foul on Jefferson.
And the Duke coaching staff is up. They're all holding up 5 fingers, claiming that should have been a 5-second violation. Of course, they are not the most objective viewers in the world. Now what?
Another foul on Duke. Is it Jefferson? His second.
Now he's trying to guard Leslie.
Reach-in foul on Seth Curry. So 3 team fouls on the Blue Devils here.
Bob, one of the things that we can see is that Tyler Lewis, even though he's got 9 points in the game and hasn't turned the ball over, the Duke defense has really not allowed him to orchestrate anything from that point guard spot. He hasn't really been able to get by Cook and create anything off the dribble, and NC State hadn't been able to get out in transition where Tyler Lewis is at his best.
How about that look-ahead pass? Suleiman couldn't have hit it, but Seth Curry with an outstanding lead pass.
This is one of those where he takes it all the way to the basket, and he scores.
In double figures with 11, with the junior from Holly Springs, North Carolina.
The Duke offense has been so efficient, it's been very difficult for North Carolina State to get transition opportunities. Curry.
Here's Purvis trying to get that first bucket. Still empty.
Bob, he had Scott Wood just floating out there beyond the three-point line. You have to be able to see that. He took a tough shot. It was close, but it wasn't an easy one. Scott Wood was wide open from three.
Cook, tough runner, was fouled. First on Tyler Lewis.
That was Cook just kept the pressure on Lewis that time. Lewis did a pretty nice job keeping in front of him, but Cook, we mentioned that he can be a very physical player. 6'1", 175 pounds, and that looks like 175 pounds of solid muscle.
The ACC leader in assist to turnover ratio, just ahead of Dexter Strickland. He does not have a turnover tonight. (63-41). Inside to Howell.
That's a great pass. Just we were talking about, Bob, orchestrating something, but that ball moved around a little bit. That's the best ball movement we've seen from North Carolina State in a while. Lewis will find you if you're open.
Curry finds the slashing Emil Jefferson. Scott Wood gets the bounce on the three. Second three tonight for Scott, and 8 points in the game. Duke by 19. Plumlee. C.J. Leslie's third. And I hope you're enjoying the broadcast, and I am proud of what young Kerry Bonner is doing for our country.
Well, we're real proud of him too, Bob. He's a pilot in the Navy, and something he's wanted to do all his life, and he's achieving his goal. His dream, really.
16 points for Mason Plumlee, and Duke back to a 20-point lead. Howell with three. Nice turnaround by Richard Howell.
You know, Howell is better with that jump shot, Bob, than he has been before. It used to be you'd say, wow, if he's going to take that shot, they'll give it to him. But that was a very nice offensive sequence by North Carolina State. Moved the ball very well.
Plumlee.
Just overpowering Leslie on the inside. And this is an extremely talented player, but Leslie just doesn't have the bulk to battle Plumlee one-on-one down in there. Plumlee's got him by almost 30 pounds, and you can really tell.
Scott Wood drains the three.
Bob, he drains the three, and as he's running back up the court, he's limping a little bit, so he's gotten it out there for North Carolina State.
State plays next Sunday at Clemson. Seth Curry fouled, and 3 more free throws. T.J. Warren's third personal.
Wood has hit a couple three-pointers here in the second half, moving well without the ball, and he does not need much time or much room. And he's able to catch that thing in rhythm. He's almost automatic. And again, he had that funny fall in the first half where it looked like he injured his leg, possibly pulled a groin a little bit. Went to the locker room before the end of the first half, but he's back now.
ACC basketball is brought to you in part by Hyundai. This is the second time the Wolfpack have fouled Curry shooting a three-pointer in the second half. 22 markers and another free throw to come. Last
Bob,
year, I'm sorry, Dan.
This is a situation where they really miss Lorenzo Brown and his ability to go out and cover. On the defensive end, they're trying to match up against Curry with Warren, and while Warren has been very good offensively, he is just a very bad matchup on the defensive end. And there's Lorenzo Brown, and he's cheering on his teammates, but that's not the kind of help they really need.
Seth Curry exits after committing his third foul.
And of course, with Lorenzo Brown, that ankle is getting better. It's sort of a day-to-day kind of thing, and there's just no reason to have him injure that thing further. So I think a very wise move on the part of North Carolina State to hold him out until he is absolutely ready to go.
TJ Warren with 11. And again, Wolfpack trying to get a little closer. They cut it back to 16. They got it down to 12 after getting punched in the nose to start the game. But Duke had that run that you talked about, Dan, but all the last 2 minutes of that first half to widen the gap big time.
Bob, and over the years, how many times have we worked and watched basketball games from this arena where that precise thing has happened? Duke jumps on you early, you spend the whole first half battling back, and then in the last 2 or 3 minutes they put on a spurt that just deflates the opposition headed into the locker room. There's a classic Duke performance here so far tonight.
TJ Warren's fourth foul. Suleiman hits double figures for the fourth time in his last 5 games with 10.
Bob, and we really haven't heard much from Suleiman on the offensive end here, but early in the game I thought his aggressiveness on offense really helped get Duke going.
Really helped set the tone with his aggressive play in the opening minutes.
And Rodney Purvis for North Carolina State still hadn't scored, and for the most part, Suleiman has guarded him. So it's been an outstanding effort by the Duke freshman.
And a foul on Quinn Cook. Tyler Lewis will go to the line. That's the third on Quinn.
Absolutely no criticism of the effort that Lewis has put forth tonight, Bob. He's done everything he can, but he's been under tremendous pressure. He's got 10 points in the game, and he just hasn't been able to orchestrate very much of anything. Oh, excuse me, that's his 10th point.
It's okay, Dan. You're a man ahead of your time. 13:47 to play. 72-56. Thornton looks. Duke keeps turning over its offense. Down to 10 the shot clock. Frazier's help with the countdown. Cook for 3. No. One arm rebound for Richard Howell.
That looked impressive, Bob. I'd have been happier if he'd have gotten the ball out more quickly to try to get a fast break going.
Leslie just dribbled it right out of bounds, trying to put a move on Tyler Thornton.
Bob, and sometimes you get in a game and you get down and everybody on the court thinks, well, I have to do it myself, but that's exactly the wrong thing to do. You get everybody involved. You force the defense to move. You give yourself a better chance for offensive rebounds. That one-on-one stuff, you're playing, but everybody else is standing.
Back iron for Murphy. Ahead is C.J. Leslie. And the Wolfpack have cut it back to 14 with 12:45.
You wonder, Bob, with all the energy they've had to expend to cut into this lead, if they'll have enough to keep cutting it.
Duke just 2 of 6 here in the second half, but they've been able to keep the big lead with all the free throws.
They have really been attacking here in the second half.
Plumlee up and in. 20 for Mason with a free throw to come.
Bob, he has been very impressive tonight. You know, when he's gone against C.J. Leslie, he's used power. When he's gone against Howell or Vandenberg, he's combined that power with some speed and quickness. He has just been very fluid, totally in control inside tonight.
Reminiscent of that Wake Forest performance here. Going to go out of bounds to State. Mason Plumlee had 32 against the Deacs over Winston-Salem. 12 of 15 shooting that night, 19 first half points against the Deacs. But he has, as magnificent as the three-point shooting was for Duke in that first half, that solid play of Plumlee, NC State had just no answer for. And that trend has continued here in the second half. Now we've got a third foul charged to Emil Jefferson.
C.J. Leslie's a tough matchup for anybody, and the freshman is working as hard as he can, but he's a bit overmatched at the moment.
Howell stuffs it. Richard with 14. 74-60.
There they are, back to within 14 again, Bob. And there's still lots of time left in the game.
And what does Duke do? They play through Plumlee. Knocked away.
Now, Plumlee is trying to be unselfish right there, but he's got to shoot that ball.
The stuff by Howell cuts the Duke lead to 14.
Really like to second that, Bob. She's done a great job at North Carolina.
Seth Curry with a deep three. Offensive rebound for Jefferson.
Now, you know, Leslie's had his number down on the other end, but Jefferson just outstrapped him for the ball. North Carolina State, Bob, shooting 9 for 11 in the second half, so they've mounted this comeback on the strength of their offense.
But can they get the requisite stops in the last 11, 10 of this game?
I got the first stop, Bob, with a good offensive rebound by Jefferson.
And Seth Curry is wide open.
And there's Jefferson again. You're not going to cut a 13-point deficit, Bob, if you give the other guys 3 opportunities, and that's what the Wolfpack did that time. Tip your hat to Jefferson.
Howell. Richard now with 16. A strong second half for the senior from Marietta, Georgia. 76-62. Suleiman, how about that no-look pass? It's denied at the rim by the Pack, but last to touch, Scott Wood.
That's a tough break for North Carolina State. Pretty good job by Wood to stop the penetration, then Leslie gets the block, and Wood just can't control the ball. And he got hit in the face for his effort, so bad news all the way around for Scott Wood.
Again, single coverage. Plumlee, an offensive foul.
That's a very good defensive job that time by Richard Howell. He does not let Plumlee spin around, anticipates the move, and takes the charge.
Mason's first foul of the game. Just the third turnover tonight.
Well, Bob, North Carolina State's only got 6. It has not been a game that has featured a lot of turnovers. The teams have taken care of the basketball pretty well. It's Duke has just capitalized on their opportunities a little bit better, a lot better.
And both of these teams are low turnover teams to begin with. Howell. Lewis. Now Richard going back to work, steps back over Plumlee and puts it in. 18 points for Richard Howell.
You know, Plumlee is going to have to come out and guard that one, Bob. And this is as close as North Carolina State has been since the end of that first half.
Seth Curry, so wise. He knew he had the defender out of position.
And that's Purvis. And Purvis had some help coming that time. Tyler Lewis was coming from behind, Bob. It looked to me like he was going to knock the ball away. And Purvis picked up the foul. And now the officials are having a conversation with Purvis and Leslie. Got to be frustrating for Purvis. He still has yet to score in the game.
So Seth Curry back to the stripe, where he is 6 of 8 this evening, make it 7 of 9.
Yeah, he's made a living there.
Yes, he has.
Averages about 7 free throw attempts a game in ACC play, so he's not an unfamiliar figure at the line.
"24 points.
Bob, but still plenty of time. We've talked throughout the game about how this game has been dominated by Duke, but North Carolina State, they're still hovering around the periphery.
Well, they are looking for Richard Howell. Now the point guard turns the corner, and the freshman Tyler Lewis takes it home. 13 points. 12 again is the margin. 78-66. Quick feed inside. Quinn Cook. He'll bring it back out. We have 9 minutes remaining in our game.
Plumlee asking for the basketball. Now what do we got? We got Howell on the hold. That's a foul, Bob, and it's the 4th foul for Richard Howell, created by the fact that Mason Plumlee was battling for inside position, asking for the basketball, and Howell trying to prevent him. That is a big, has almost 9 minutes left in the game, 8:54, and Richard Howell now with 4 personal fouls.
Front end good for Mason Plumlee. He is 7 of 10 at the line. Well, Richard's got to come out of the game. Alex Murphy coming in for Duke. TJ Warren returns.
Bob, and that's a look at the free throw numbers, and the interesting thing about that is that in ACC play, coming into this game, Duke was only making about 10 free throws per game. But they, in addition to making the threes, they've been attacking and getting to the line.
Redshirt freshman Murphy defending. Now it's Purvis, and he's fouled out front by Suleiman. Rashid's 3rd. And that is the 8th team foul on the Blue Devils. 1-1 coming for Raleigh freshman Rodney Purvis. 53% are at the line. And Plumlee clears.
Oh, that's really curious that he's that bad a free throw shooter. I mean, he's a good shooter from the field.
Suleiman to the hole. Follow! Plumlee no! Here comes the Wolfpack. Looking to run. They've got big-time numbers. And it's going to be a blocking foul on Duke. Thornton, his 3rd.
That'll be Purvis going back to the line, Bob. And again, he wasn't able to convert that. That was a 4-on-1. Tough shot, and then the miss. And this is a great job by Lewis, pushing the ball up the court.
One of the few times tonight we've seen NC State get out and run. Hard to run when that ball is coming out the net. That's a 2-shot foul, guys. Hold everything. Remain calm. Second free throw to come. (80-67).
Pete goes back to Plumlee inside against Leslie. They had tremendous success there earlier in the game.
Cook losing the dribble, in trouble. Puts it up and in! Timeout, Duke.
What a heads-up little play that was. You just pick up the ball and flip it up at the basket.
7:55 remaining. Quinn Cook. I'll take that one. Timeout at Cameron. 82-67 is our score.
Wolfpack shooting 12 for 14 from the field in the second half, 12 for 15 now. And Duke, they made those 10 three-pointers in the first half. They haven't made any in the second half.
But they have piled up the free throws.
Oh, they have attacked on the inside, and that's what happens. The defense pushes out to cover the three. You take the ball to the goal, and you score from the line. Here they go again.
Throwing kick for Thornton. Purvis. First field goal. 82-69.
And you just have to wonder if Duke, with all the intensity and effort that they've expended tonight, if maybe they're not getting a little tired. Plumlee's telling him he wants the ball on his side so he can operate against Howell with those 4 personal fouls.
Cook gives it to him. And a reverse for Mason.
Really good patience by Duke and really good patience by Plumlee.
Howell comes right back at Plumlee. And Mason with his second foul. We have a timeout. 6:20 remaining in our game. Duke got top 84-69. We'll return after these messages from your local ACC.
Mark Gottfried's troops have only been able to cut 6 points off the lead that was 21 at halftime.
Richard Howell to the stripe, playing with 4 personals. His 19th point.
Playing with 4 personals, playing very well.
Closed captioning for ACC basketball is provided by Bojangles, famous chicken and biscuits. It's Bo time. State really can't afford to leave points to foul line. That's happened here in the second half. Purvis and Howell.
Now State trying to extend the defense a little bit.
And time becoming a critical factor. Down to 6 to go. Suleiman.
That's a great rebound by Howell. Just a dynamite rebound. He didn't even jump to get it.
And Warren is held by Curry. Want to win a VIP trip to the ACC tournament? Well, visit the ACC Facebook page, share your stories, and enter the Haviland Protect What Matters Challenge. A 4th foul on Seth Curry sends TJ Warren to the line.
Bob, exactly what you were talking about. NC State continues to struggle from the free throw line here in the second half, and their attack has been sufficiently aggressive that they've been able to get there. And that's an ideal way to come back in a game, score when the clock's not running. But when you're down by as much as North Carolina State finds themselves down, you can't get 1 point each trip down the court. You got to go for 2 or 3. Fans trying to get back into it here.
Patiently using the shot clock, down to 10. Cook has it stolen by Howell.
Now Howell's got to be careful here.
Can't score. Gets it back. Can't score.
Bob, you could just see he was worried about that charging foul, and that's why he missed the first one, but he's a great offensive rebounder, and they've got it down to 11.
5 minutes to go.
Talk about the fact that Duke might be a little bit tired, Bob, and how much gas does NC State have left trying to battle back from that big deficit?
Plumlee with the hook. Rebound to Leslie.
A 3 here would make things interesting, don't you think?
CJ to Howell, and the lead is 9.
Wow.
Richard with 23. The Pack fans who made it over to Cameron finally have something to cheer about, and Duke takes a timeout. And now NC State has cut this thing to 9. Duke milking these shot clock possessions here. Quinn Cook takes it out near the midcourt line. Drives in, fires, hits.
Bob, that was really good defense, just better offense.
Quinn Cook with 19, Duke by 11.
Can't ask much more of Lewis on that particular play, but Cook's got about 20 pounds on him, and he used that power to just bully him for that shot.
And they're going to call an offensive foul on Howell. He's done.
And let's see if they decide that that's a flagrant one, because I think he may have gotten the elbow in the nose of Plumlee. Yep.
We've got a timeout, so sort it out when we come back.
That is a flagrant one personal foul, and that's what they have ruled. Now let's not be confused here. They did not throw Richard Howell out of the game. That would only be with a flagrant 2. That was Howell's 5th personal foul, so that's why he sat down. But the point here is it's an 11-point game, and Plumlee's going to get 2 free throws, and then Duke is going to get the ball.
25 for Mason Plumlee.
And Howell had 23 points, 15 of those in the second half. He also had 9 rebounds. And what a game by Plumlee.
Outstanding. 88-75. Next telecast Sunday, 1 o'clock. You'll see either the Wolfpack at Clemson or the Cavaliers at Maryland. Next Wednesday, back here at Cameron Indoor Stadium for the North Carolina Duke game. 88-75. Thornton will check in. And Jefferson will go to the bench. 3 minutes and 41 seconds remaining. A 1-point affair in Blacksburg, 54-53 Maryland with 1:20 remaining. Suleiman gets out of a double team.
This is really exhausting if you're a defensive team trying to chase somebody that's going to keep the floor pretty well spaced.
Seth with a left hand, but it traveled. Wolfpack will get it back. The 5th turnover tonight for the Blue Devils.
Score 88 points, Bob, and you only turn it over 5 times. That's not too shabby.
Purvis. 5 for Rodney. 88-77.
Duke can afford to be very patient. Of course, they got to get it across half court in 10 seconds, which they do.
Rashid Suleiman handing it off to Cook. Duke now gets into its set with 12 on the shot clock. Plumlee. Nice up and under. And Leslie commits his 4th. And you said a key word in describing Plumlee's activity inside: patience.
Well, he looks, he makes sure nobody's coming, and then gives that fake and doesn't try to get the foul right there. Watch as he pump fakes. Leslie goes up, and then he pivots to the other side, still draws the foul. But a lot of guys would have taken that right up into C.J. Leslie. But Plumlee, that's a very, very good move. He's so fluid, so smooth, so smart down inside.
11 of 14 at the line for Mason Plumlee tonight.
Bob, and I'm going to tell you something. If he's going to make free throws like that, we mentioned he was only 50% from the line coming in ACC play, but he gets to the line so much because of his activity inside. If he's going to make a high percentage of his free throws, he's going to be really tough to stop.
C.J. Leslie will go to the line.
Nice move by Leslie, but one of the reasons that Plumlee is going to be so tough to stop, Bob, is Duke has all those three-point shooters out on the perimeter, so they're not going to double-team Plumlee down on the inside. He's going to get a lot of chances to go one-on-one, and here C.J. Leslie going one-on-one against Plumlee. He's got 15. See, Leslie against Plumlee, Leslie has to make it a game of quickness, and Plumlee's trying to make it a game of power.
That's a 10-second violation on Duke.
Mike Krzyzewski's claiming he was calling a timeout.
The ball goes over to the Wolfpack.
Bob, it's a 10-point ball game. Duke is not out of the woods yet. But NC State has to go and go quickly.
Inside, Leslie fouled, and that's 4 on Mason.
Bob, that was some pass by Warren. How did he get that over Plumlee? Just barely got it over his fingertips. A perfect pass. And this is something we talked about early in the game, Bob. NC State was not able to attack inside, and so therefore they didn't put that kind of pressure on Plumlee. And another miss from the free throw line for the Wolfpack.
Leslie is 1 of 4. The Wolfpack have missed 5 free throws in the second half. Now the Pack take a timeout with 1:52 remaining, and Duke leading 89-80. Let's take a look at our nation's top 25, brought to you by the Honda dealers of the Carolinas.
That Miami team, Bob, certainly playing very, very well right at the moment. Everything seems to be meshing for the Hurricanes. And this Duke team, the interesting thing about Duke, Bob, you mentioned it before, they lose Kelly, they have to sort of retool on the fly, and they've done an outstanding job.
This is the way the RPI is shaping up.
And of course the RPI is one, not the only one, but one of the measurements that's used by the NCAA Tournament Committee when they're talking about teams that might get at-large bids. And Duke, Miami, North Carolina State, North Carolina all look to be in pretty good shape, not only with their RPIs, but also their strength of schedule. The other teams, you know, you get above 50 and it's really difficult to get an at-large bid to that NCAA tournament. So a lot of work to be done by teams in the ACC.
Duke beats the pressure. They get a lay-in from Tyler Thornton. 1:40 remaining. Purvis the other way. 91-82 Duke. And a travel. Boy, if you're the Wolfpack, you've got to find Scott Wood, don't you? For a 3, somehow, some way. There's just a $1:30 left in the game. Leslie denied at the rim by Plumlee. And a foul.
That's a great defensive play by a guy with 4 personal fouls, Bob. That is some defensive play by Plumlee. C.J. Leslie has picked up his 5th personal foul, but he gets Mason Plumlee, back on his heels. And Plumlee is able to recover, Bob. I mean, he took a step back, was on his heels, but recovered quickly and jumped up to block the shot. So
C.J. Leslie.
Now Leslie out. That was some play by Plumlee.
What a game he's playing. 1:18 left. Cook at the line. 20 points for Cook. So 3 Blue Devils now, 20 plus in the game. And Duke, a minute 15 from its 4th straight win, 20th of the season, and an unbeaten 12-0 home mark. There's Wood turning and firing and hitting.
Bob, exactly what you were talking about.
They need points, and they need them quickly, and the only way for State. And trouble. Timeout Duke. They just beat the 5-second count.
Bob, this is some effort here by North Carolina State. I mean, they have not necessarily played well on the defensive end of the court, and their energy level didn't seem to be as high as I'm sure Mark Gottfried wanted it to be for most of the first half, but they have just battled and battled here in the second half And despite the fact that they've lost Leslie and Howell to foul trouble and that Lorenzo Brown didn't even play, they're still battling away.
And Tyler Lewis, the freshman, making his first collegiate start. And this NC State team has cut this thing back to 8. Duke's biggest lead tonight was 22. But the Blue Devils have been unable to pull away late like they did at the end of the first half. And we've got a whistle and a foul on Duke. This is going to be a foul on Suleiman. He threw somebody out of the way.
And Scott Wood he threw out of the way.
So the ball goes back to State.
Oh, you could see very clear there in the replay. Bobby grabbed his shirt and threw him down.
Looking for Scott. Down the lane, Vandenberg, no. State offensive rebound, Wood, a monster three, short. Rebound to Curry, and a foul on State with 52 seconds left.
Bob, that would have been interesting had that one gone in the basket.
And look at the depth on this attempt.
That's a great pass by Lewis. I mean, that's just a marvelous pass. And then the ball's tipped to him, and he finds the one guy you need from three-point range. Really impressed with this kid. That kid too, but Lewis, I think, has really done a nice job here in his first visit.
25 for Seth. It's a final now in Blacksburg. Maryland wins 60-55 over the Hokies.
Bob, that's been the story of the year for Virginia Tech. They're involved in a lot of close games. They just can't come through.
Lewis, that's blocked. Quinn Cook. Now Duke can sit on it here. Practically run out the clock. Shot clock's at 25 and the game clock at 32. Cook goes up with it to Plumlee. And he puts it in. With the cherry on top.
That's a great pass inside by Cook. He sees the big man come over at him, just lobs it up for Plumlee. And again, Bob, really nice patience by Mason Plumlee to catch that ball, to gather himself, and then take it up. Now he's got 30. So one Plumlee goes out and another one comes in.
And this Plumlee had a night.
Now 15 in the first half, 15 in the second half, just a marvelous performance.
Warren's follow no. 10 seconds left, and that will do it. The Duke Blue Devils will run out the clock and savor the revenge victory over the Wolfpack. Mike Krzyzewski comes to shake the hand to Mark Gottfried. A 20-win season one more time at Cameron Indoor Stadium tonight. Final score, Duke 98 and